the owner and CEO of They Call Me Love Productions. And, okay, yes, all right. We are currently this year's nominated 2024 Best Radio Show. They Call Me Love. It is on home radio. It's on Thursdays at 9 and Sundays at 5. Make sure you tune in. We are gearing up for season 3, so I'm looking for some guests. So if you want to be a guest on the show, please make sure you hit me up after the show. Okay. I wanted to highlight today that the ZD Experience and They Call Me Love Productions have merged together for this wonderful experience, this live experience. I know, right? My show is all about purpose, okay? I believe that everybody has a purpose in life. The Most High has given you so many gifts, so many talents, and guess what? That's where your purpose lies, okay? So we have to start using those gifts and talents. Those are things that we're praying for, we want, right? The reason we haven't gotten it is because we're not running in our purpose yet. We have to be obedient to those things that God has given us, right? Those gifts are gifts, right? So as we merge together, me and Zandrina, we've known each other for a very long time. We've been friends, but her show is about music and purpose. Mine is about purpose and spiritual life coaching, right? So we decided, let's merge together. Let's put a show together. Let's get Zandrina on the stage and bring everything that she does in the studio at home to life. Okay, that's why you're here. I also want to make sure while I'm here is to shout out all of our partners, okay? We have some beautiful sponsors. Make sure you get your swag bag, okay? Because that's where some of the gifts are. I want to thank the incredible partners that we have, including Swansea Lux. Beautiful candles, okay? Gotta get a candle. Woo! Yes, for sure. Okay, I need to where she at? I love her. She recently was on my show, so make sure you get a candle. We also have mugs courtesy of Izzy Mac, and I love this mug, okay? Swag bag items by the Black Expo. We know about the Expo, okay? That's a big thing each year. Wardrobe partners, Daisy Finley. Woo! Okay. Music by DJ Scrib. Scrib has been going in, right? Okay, he's been going in all night. All right. We also have videography by Bell Digital Media. All the lights and camera flashing in the background. We love those. Just a reminder, this is a live show, so this is being recorded. So make sure you're smiling, you're laughing, you cry if you need to during the sad times. We're no sad times, but you gotta say something sometime. And also we have our venue here, the Peacock, okay? Beautiful. Make sure y'all get some food, okay? Come back again. There's rooftop. It's all types of stuff that's going on here. So we love Michelle. Hey, Michelle. And then our welcome cocktails are by the Strike Pig Distillery. Okay. We love the Strike Pig. It's good, right? It has a little holiday flavor, a little festive, okay? All right. Also, just want to announce also that tonight's event benefits Florence Christensen programs. Okay. And a portion of the proceeds from this event will go directly to changing their life-changing programs. So definitely, we love them. Remember I talked about that purpose, right? And things that we're supposed to be doing, giving back. All right. Also, again, I just wanted to shout out the Sip and Share fundraiser that's happening right now. From tonight until January 19th, you can visit the Strike Pig Distillery in person or online at strikepigdistillery.com. You can purchase a bottle of their spirits. And then you can use the Sip and Share Florence Christensen cart item during checkout, and $2 from each bottle will be donated to Florence Christensen programs. So there is also a QR code that should be on everyone's table here that you can take a little screenshot of so that you can get into that as well. Right. So I think we're ready to get into it. I just want to make sure that everyone is relaxed and calm and ready, okay? I just want everybody just to take a break and just breathe in all of this goodness and purpose and peacefulness that is in this room, and then breathe out the gratefulness and thankfulness that we have for everyone that is here and that is participating, okay? So again, my name is Love. Now, I wish I had a drum roll. Come on, Scrib looks for the drum roll. I want to just personally say that me and Zandrina, again, have gone all the way back when we were not running in our purpose, okay? We met during a time where we weren't doing the things that we were supposed to. Fast forward, we are running, okay, in our purpose.
Rise,
woo! I mean, seriously, it really is important about the people that you have in your circle, okay? Because Those people are supposed to uplift you. They're supposed to love on you. There is no jealousy, no hate, or competition between me and my sister.
Hello.
Okay? That is exactly why we are here tonight, to help celebrate the ZD experience. It is a blend of live music, interviews, community connection to create an engaging and soulful entertainment night. We will have, she has performances, radio events. She celebrates diversity and storytelling. I also want to make sure that we mention Steven as the producer and the show and creative director of the ZD Experience. He'll be here shortly. And we also have a theme song that's going to premiere tonight. When I tell y'all, my sister and Steven are some artists. How many of y'all have seen Zandrina actually perform? Then you know what you are in for tonight. So again, much love to everyone in this room. Make sure you go check out theycallmelove.com, LUV, info at theycallmeluv.com. Send me an email. Let's get you in the studio. Let's get you on my show. Spiritual life coaching sessions are open right now. Let me help you run into your purpose. Dream interpretations or sessions are open as well. You all are dreamers. God gives us gifts. Let me help you understand your dream. Now, put your hands together. Put your hands together. For the reason that we are here, for my sister, for the beautiful, the lovely Zandrina.
Welcome to the live taping of the ZD Live Experience. And I give it up once again for my girl, my sister, Lovey Smith. I'm so happy that we are now, because we can always say this, we are now walking in our purpose. Yes, right? And you guys are here to witness this. So you all are along for this journey. So I thank you so much for being here. On behalf of the ZD Experience, we celebrate diversity. We celebrate inspiration through music, through arts, through creativity, through all the things that have to do with just shining and exuding what resides within artistically. So tonight is no exception, right? So I have had a vision for so long, and you guys know the ZD Experience on Home Radio 96.3 FM broadcasts live every Thursday on Home Radio 96.3. And I had a vision. I said I could see myself in front of a live studio audience, and I kept seeing this vision. So here we are. This is number 2. And I thank you all for going and buying your tickets for being to be here tonight. So, you guys know we amplify voices who move the needle and change makers, right? So tonight is no exception. I am so excited to bring to you all Dr. Tanya Matthews, who is the CEO of the International African American Museum of Charleston. We have a museum. But we have a museum where everything started, where we came in directly. Gaston's Wharf is, y'all know the story, right? Yes. So we have the CEO here. She is a scientist. She is a poet. And like I said, she is one that amplifies voices. So she is not only the one that has her voice amplified, but she also amplifies important voices in our community. So we're so excited to have her here tonight. You guys, give it up for Dr. Tanya Matthews. My sister. I am so good. All right, I'm doing it. So this is going to be a very candid conversation. It is. All right. I know you've done a lot of interviews, Dr. Matthews.
I have.
Yes, and you've been here since 2021.
Since 2021,
Okay.
yes.
Mm-hmm. So I had no clue first that the CEO of the International African American Museum was a Black woman.
Okay.
At the time. because we know that Dr. Michael Moore, yes, was the CEO beforehand, and then there was a transition. So I brought a little something, and I want to tell everybody the story.
Oh, shoot.
I want to tell everybody the story first. Okay, so I am a frequent person that goes into the grocery store and looks at the magazines, the local magazines. And I want to say, silence your phones. Silence your phones. All right, I should have gave that disclaimer beforehand. But I picked up this particular magazine because I saw this beautiful, eloquent Black woman on the cover. And I said, who is that? I have no clue. So I got the magazine.
Oh my goodness. Yes. That was the one. That was the one. Listen, that was the one.
And this was my introduction. So I said, who is this woman? So I said, oh my gosh. Meet the dynamic Dr. Tommy Matthews, who is steering the International African American Museum in its final push towards opening later in this year. And this was from 2022.
2022.
So I want to ask you, Dr. Matthews, what was your introduction to Charleston? Had you been here before?
That's a great question. Okay, so my introduction to Charleston, beyond, of course, the mythology of all that is Charleston. The first time I was physically in the space, I was in the middle of the interview process. Right, there was a national search. I was in the interview process. I was a finalist or the finalist. I knew that moment of decision was coming where they were going to invite me down. I have come to a point in my life and my career where I get to choose where I end up. Right. I mean, and for all the folks who are on the journey, no, you don't get to choose at 22. I just want to warn you now. Okay. You build up enough and you choose. And I had gone through a space where I wasn't choosing what I wanted to do. I was choosing who I wanted to be in my next role and what I expected to have around me. So I'm in the interview process and I snuck into Charleston. I didn't actually come in the first time on the formal interview. So I have this thing now where I mysteriously show up before folks are ready to roll out whatever carpet they're trying to roll out. And so it was actually the Christmas holiday season of 2020, and I jumped on a plane and I snuck into Charleston, put myself in a little hotel, wandered around the construction site at the museum to feel it, because there was something that I was never really worried about the sanctity and the sacredness and the energy of the space. But I wanted to confirm. I wanted to confirm. I happened to be there at sunrise. I still have that picture for that. But then just going into stores, grocery stores, drugstores, whatever, just kind of doing my thing to feel. And it passed muster. Nothing super crazy happened. And so then when I actually came for the formal interview, that's when I actually revealed to the search committee that I had actually been here before. And so that was actually my first introduction to Charleston, was me sort of coming in to kind of check things. The second half of that was that last formal interview process when I came here in person. It was long. Which is typical for chief executive searches. So I think I got sort of the first word or call of interest maybe August, September, and that's kind of what it takes, right? There's a pre-vetting team, a professional team, then there's the search committee, maybe phone, maybe Zoom, then they ask you to come up with some kind of presentation, they're looking at other people, they're narrowing it down, so it takes some time. So it was early fall of 2020 when we were sort of really in the space, and so then by the time I got here in April, that was about 6-7 months. Yeah.
Okay. At what point did you realize, what, I think I got this position? You know how we can be in situations and we just feel it?
So, that's actually a really interesting question, because for this one, that wasn't quite the sensation. The sensation I was having was that I was going to accept the offer if it came. So it was very interesting. I was a little distant from whether or not I would get it because, the museum industry is like any other industry, right? A business is a business is a business, but we do have our sections and our subsections. And I had been the CEO of a museum before, and it was a science museum. It was one of those hands-on interactive science centers, and before that I had led a 3-museum, 3 research center place. So we did have a history museum, but also natural history and children's. So the thing that surprised me most was that they were looking at someone with a science museum background to lead a history museum, because we can be a little persnickety, okay? We can, we have some times. So it was in kind of that space, and I was sort of just excited and impressed about that. But it was really interesting. Folks asked me, so how did you decide to accept? I don't remember deciding. I just remember knowing. I just remember thinking, I'm gonna have to pretend to negotiate. That's kind of what I remember. But I want to give some credit where credit is due. You named it the International African American Museum. I was like, okay, sort of in that, and I understood the space. And I think even more than those who were leading the search committee, the board, the staff, the team at the time, because I was the one that was in the sector. Like, this is my profession. Everyone else was really periphery and learning. I understood the impact and scale of the museum. So going in, I knew we would be the 2nd largest African American history museum in the country, but there wasn't a full sense of that. And I also, because I'm a DC girl, DC native, I actually, shout out, I also understood some of the constraints that the largest museum had. The Smithsonian is a phenomenal institution. It's my first love, my first museum, but they are also a government institution, right? And that's where their funding comes from. And Secretary Bunch, even when he was director, and the current director, Kevin, do an amazing job working inside that box. But there is a box, right? So if you're coming in as the 2nd largest, you are potentially the Apple to the Microsoft, right? So y'all forget Microsoft was first now. And Apple got to watch sort of what was happening. And so I had all of those senses and sensations, and I knew mommy would be proud. So all of these things were sort of leading me in that direction.
That's beautiful. And you mentioned your mom.
He is.
Meet her a couple times.
Almost everybody has.
So I want to talk a little bit. I want to rewind a little bit.
Rewind.
I wanted to give everybody a little bit of a preface as to where you are now, but now.
Okay.
Right. So you grew up in
DC. I was born in DC proper. But thank you. So they're the natives. They're the natives. Northeast, if you got to ask. But yes, I was born in DC. So it's interesting. We are the South in denial. I like to tell folks the Mason-Dixon line is above us, right? And then I like to subtly remind folks who are there, Frederick Douglass escaped from Baltimore. So to keep it real, that is where we are. But we don't necessarily consider ourselves that, because we were also a destination point for the Great Migration. I think that's how we get that quasi feel. Like, a lot of folks were heading to various places, but because of the federal government and the jobs it offered, there was also a great mass of folk coming up and parking in DC. Actually, my grandmother's one of those. She came up in the early 40s and to work with the War Department, which is now the Department of Defense. And so I think that's why we have sort of some of that sensibility. But yeah. Oh Lord, okay. Yes.
Your position in Catholic school, and do you feel like you would be where you are if you had gone to a public school?
That is an extraordinary question, and as I answer it, I know that my mother is a proud public school graduate, and my daddy too, so I'm gonna answer this correctly in the question. And so one, not so much Catholic, but it was a private school. And after 8th grade, then it was an all-girls private school. And I think that is an interesting element, right? To be surrounded in a community where the standards of excellence look something like you, right? Where you're essentially kind of competing against your own images and spaces. So there is something to be said for that. So I would actually say that, being in a private Catholic all-girls school did have, a lot to do with sort of my sensibilities, perhaps about what leadership looked like. Because the class president was clearly going to be a girl, right? The head of the club was clearly going to be a girl. The valedictorian's going to be a girl. All these folk were going to be girls. So there was that and that. But I did actually take some additional classes in public school, which I would say for me, lucky I was smart, because there are a whole lot of distractions. There are more distractions in public schools, and boys are not even a half of it. There's just a whole lot going on in public school, and so I think you do have to have, and we perhaps don't give our public school student graduates credit for the level of compartmentalization and focus that you have when you're in that environment to be able to do that. And so, I do think it was important in that. I think it also, in retrospect, sent messages about the expectations that my parents had for me, because private school isn't free. Right? I mean, even with the scholarships, it's just not free. And so when they are investing, and every once in a while you get in trouble, and they're not shy about reminding you of this investment, right? And so it does send a message. And what's really interesting about that is the person who was most adamant about me and my brothers and sisters going to Catholic school, which was sort of the premier system in the DC area, was my dad. My dad is not the college graduate in the family. My mother is. But he was very, very big on education is the way, and that's what he wanted for his children. So he was very serious. Oh my goodness, we literally just had this conversation. I believe mommy graduated from Ballou High School. Mommy, if you're listening, I got that wrong, sorry, just fake it. No. Actually, no, mom went to McKinley Tech. That's right. Daddy was Ballou. So mom went to McKinley Tech's public high school in the DC area, but it was, like the Tech, the school where, you could apply to get into, because she talks about how there was only one other little girl in her neighborhood who went there, and they would walk together in that space. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's something else. Do we have any girls' school?
Girls' school.
Or girls' school attendees? College, high school. I'd love to see some similarities, in that leadership space. I do know the role that Ms. Patrice Smith took. She's definitely a staple in this area. So I want to kind of fast forward, but I want to give everybody just a little bit of, life growing up from
Yeah, sure, of course.
So when you came to Charleston, how did you feel you were received?
That is a really good question, and my answer is probably going to surprise folks. And it's part personality, but part skill set. I was quite well received in Charleston, and I think surprisingly so to some who perhaps were expecting or hoping for different. You said it was candid. Okay, right. So it was very interesting, because I think that I came in with such a sense of wonder and curiosity and respect, right? Not voyeurism, but like an authentic, all right, talk to me. Tell me a story, tell me what's going on. Then I learned that the favorite thing Charlestonians like to do is tell you a story. And so, within minutes we'd be talking about grandparents. But part of that was just who I am, but part of it is also who I needed to be as a nonprofit leader, right? When we are in a space of the nonprofit space, community engagement space, we are stewards and reflective of the community. It requires that skill set. You go, you listen, you ask questions, you're in that space. And so the idea that I was excited about coming to people's houses for dinner, and I wanted to hear all their stories and what had happened was, and all these kinds of things, I think really surprised folks and endeared folks, versus I get the sense that often sometimes people will come in with different attitudes. Particularly if you're coming from, from the north, you're coming to fix things or change things. And I wasn't actually doing that. I was so excited to be here. And so I would say, from the community, African American community, Gullah Geechee community, it looks like me, got a lot of support. And I also think that there was also sort of the business community, the stakeholder community in the museum who was really rooting for someone who would understand what to do. Because at that point, remember, we were already in year 21 of trying to pull this museum together. And I think that folks were excited about the possibilities of someone who had experience and was excited to do this and was willing to sort of talk and have those conversations. So I think from the more practical side, there was also a sense of excitement and curiosity about what I could do and bring in the space.
That is beautiful. So with a background in a scientific background, I'd say, a very well-educated background, where did the poetry fit in for you?
So,
she's a published poet as well.
Yeah, so it's interesting. My first publisher, some of you may know the name Kwame Alexander. He's now a very well established young adult book writer. I remember meeting him the first time and telling him, and he's like, "You're in grad school and an engineer. Like, what are you doing with poetry?" I was like, "Well, poetry is my first love, but I need a backup plan, so I'm gonna get a degree in engineering." I literally, look, young people. So I was like, I need a backup plan. I need insurance. And so it was always there, right? I remember the roses are red, violets are blue. I remember competing in the Dunkin' Donuts, like Kid Easter, poetry contests and things. So that has always been there. But there's been a practical side of me, a striving side of me that may indeed be cultural. Right, I think that that those of us who are supported in just going straight for the arts have an incredible luxury and blessing in the environment, that they're in. And so my family was like, poetry and right. So, exactly, right. But that was also me, right? I'm the oldest daughter. I'm like, absolutely, I need insurance. And so it was always that. And I would say that I really started to come into my own around thinking around the professionalization, the skill, the practice, the work that it took to be an artist, even if you were going to do that on the side. In college, I was either a sophomore or a junior at Duke University when I wrote the poem that would ultimately become the signature piece that I was using. And I remember just kind of walking through the airport one day at the Raleigh-Durham airport, and I don't know what else was happening, but I was having that moment where you're coming into yourself, right? And I just, this is going to be what, 1920?
That's early.
1920, 2021. I mean, I still have some left turns to go, but I had this sense that I was okay, and I think everyone can relate to this, but I would say particularly for brown black girls, right? I'm not light, I'm not dark, I'm just brown, like sort of in the middle. I'm not skinny, I'm not big, I'm just curvy or whatever, and the hair is doing this. And that kind of thing. And I was in a mood where I was thinking, it is okay. I am good with that. And so the poem is these hips, right? And so I'm walking through the airport, strutting, I'm talking to myself, and it becomes the poem, right? And it was really kind of a reflection of, I'm cool, this is good. If this is as far as we go and this is who I am good with that. And so it was a poem where I was kind of sort of shouting myself out. And then I, sent it into one of, our journals, on campus, and always kind of held on to that piece. And so then when I was in graduate school in Baltimore, and the poetry became, I think, more critical for my balance, for me to be able to balance all the things that I was working with in my head, that was the poem that I would come out with, and that I would recite, and that ultimately sort of led to all the other stuff, the stage name and all that other kind of stuff.
There is so much to be said about that left and right brain communication, and being able to balance. And we have somebody here in the audience who taught me a term. We say balance all the time, but it's about harmony.
Yeah. Shout out,
It's about
Sonia.
harmony.
I see you.
So since I've heard that,
Uh-huh.
it's stuck with me, and I say it so much more. So it's so important to dig into that creativity.
Mm-hmm.
We all, I believe, have a little bit of that in us. And it's
Absolutely.
a matter of tapping into it.
Uh-huh.
So I'm so glad that you have that environment growing up, that nurturing, from those parents and whatever influenced you to say, okay, I'm going to do this, but I have this as well.
Yeah.
And for you to be here in this moment in your life and still exercising both parts of that, there's so much to be said about it. That dual success.
It's actually very interesting because, like I said, I'm one of the practical kids in the family, and even I remember when I was in college, I was studying engineering. I was a double major, biomedical and electrical engineering, and part of me was like, maybe you can write poetry after you graduate, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, how about you buckle down? And so I said, okay, if this is what it takes, this is what it takes. And I then shifted to a very, very strong focus in just focusing on the engineering and my studies. And I found that it just wasn't clicking. Like, I just couldn't focus. I just wasn't as good on the engineering side. I said, oh no, I'm gonna be a broke artist. Okay, fine, let me just shift focus and do the other side. Maybe I'm just supposed to be poetry, and I joined the choir and the writing group and just everything. And then I was doing that, and again, the poetry was missing something, right? It was missing a little soul.
Okay.
And that's actually when I discovered that for me, I do have to be firing on all cylinders. There just has to be sort of something in there. For me, it just didn't work. I agree with you. I think everybody's got a little something, and we've got to nurture that.
Yeah.
But I did actually try, I'm a scientist at heart, to do one or the other. And I found that without each other, at least in my case, they were suffering. And so as I sort of moved and marched forward, I've just accepted that. And there's always been a way to put in. And sometimes it's a delay a game. But that is actually how I discovered that part.
Awesome. As a creative, speaking to another creative,
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit more about your poetry.
Okay.
You had the opportunity to speak with one of the greats, Miss Nikki
did.
Giovanni, who
I
recently
did. I did. I did.
Can you tell me about that experience, please?
So, what we think at this point, because now what we know is that I was the last to interview her, right? And of course, she came here for the Charleston Literary Festival, and she was going to be here, and then she couldn't travel. She was very, very open. She was not feeling well after chemo, but she still wanted to do the interview. We set it all up, big old screen, and God bless Zoom. Okay,
Right.
so we had all of that going on. And I knew about this for quite some time, and I've always been a reader of Nikki G's, and I have my favorite poem, and I'm reading all the new books, and I'm trying to read. I'm like, what am I gonna ask? She's been interviewed a cajillion times. The documentary had just come out, and I fangirl and worship very interesting people, right? Real talk, Denzel could come in and I'd be like, hey brother, how you doing? And keep it moving, right? I mean, it's just very different. But like a Nikki Giovanni, a Neil deGrasse Tyson, I'm like, oh my God, so, nerd. Okay, so this is kind of where I am. And the one thing I didn't want to do is I didn't want her to be bored. Right? I wanted her to also, enjoy, the interview. And you do that by asking interesting questions and getting the wander. So I was so stressed over that. And then also just stressed. And I'm like, are you just going to get up there and just smile at her? Because you just happy to be in the room. You forget the audience. You don't need, I know what y'all paid. It don't matter. I'm just looking at Nikki. But it worked out wonderfully because she's not only gracious, but she's smart. She's funny. She's like any other 80-year-old. She is sarcastic. She say what she want to say.
So real, right?
It was so real and amazing, and she was vibrant and exciting, and so it was a wonderful, wonderful space to be. And what ended up happening, because of the way we had to set it up, and I was in a couch, it did feel like a living room. It kind of felt like I got to sort of like go to her home, and we're kind of like sitting in her office and chatting and having this conversation. And so I really I really enjoyed it. And I think for me, also enjoyed watching the video, because as you're probably experiencing right now, when you are the interviewer, you're of two constant minds. I mean, you're paying attention-ish, but you're feeling the room, you're feeling the speaker, you're feeling your questions. So there was a lot of that going on as well. But even inside of that, I was able to take in so much of that, and was so absorbed in the moment. I remember thinking, ooh, was the audience bored? Right, because I was just up there having a good time with Miss Giovanni, but it turns out if the two of us are having a good time, then the audience is having a good time. And so it was wonderful. And the moment she said something, she said, well now Tanya, you know. Nikki Giovanni knows my name. Listen, I've been in many interviews. I don't know the interviewer's name. Nikki Giovanni, and so that was the moment I almost lost it. Sort of in terms of that, but it was wonderful.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
that's
It
so,
was
so
wonderful.
beautiful. And then, right, yeah. And then to have the opportunity to be, it's not a positive thing, but it is a positive thing to be the last one to interview.
Yeah.
Them. There's so much to be
Yeah.
said about that.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that?
It's interesting, and I'm putting words into someone else's mouth, but the thing that comes through about Nikki is that she is a teacher and an educator. And I think that if she had her preference, she would have wanted her last interviews to be with someone who was much younger. Right? Because that's just the way she was and how she rolled. And it was almost a bit of reverse of the way she came into a lot of the public consciousness. Because of course, what a lot of folks remember is that interview with James Baldwin, right? And now that Nikki Giovanni is Nikki Giovanni, we forget that she wasn't then, right? And James Baldwin was James Baldwin, and Nikki Giovanni was like, who's this upstart and why is Jim? And and she is going in there toe to toe. I mean, she is going in.
Oh yeah.
And then it was funny because in later days, even in the interview that I with her, she refers to him as Jimmy. I was like, you go James Baldwin, Jimmy. I was like, you are the queen. But I think in terms of thinking through that, as I think about her and her energy, I think that she could have had her last interview with anyone, right? She could have brought Oprah to her home if that's what she'd, actually wanted. But as I think she would have preferred that would be a younger person.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
It was perfect. I
Yeah.
was grateful to have the opportunity. I wasn't able to come to that particular event, but I was able to come to the tribute at the museum. So to be there and to have her life reflected in that way with the steppers and the conversation in the band, it was wonderful. So I commend the museum for paying tribute to her in that way.
Thank you. Thank you.
And, when she passed, I had to snag a little something. I got the quote that you mentioned, and I want to read it to you all. Nikki Giovanni will be remembered as a national treasure, blessed with a gift for words and wisdom. She used her genius to create the kind of poetry and unapologetic conversation that celebrated everyday Black life, Black struggle, and Black joy. In doing so, she gave us all, the entire nation, a reason and a way to move forward and become a beloved community. That was from you.
Yeah.
That, very well said. Very eloquently said. And I want to ask you, Dr. Matthews, how do you want to be remembered?
Oh. That is a really good question, and probably a question we should ask ourselves every decade or so. And this is going to be a real roundabout way of answering it, but I have what I call an in-game retreat. Whenever I feel a major transition coming on, which is usually when I just feel confused about whatever my next step is, right? I have what I call an in-game retreat, which is I will take a couple of days and go somewhere and and you're writing and you're journaling. But my journaling question is, what do you want to be doing 30 years from now, right? Because what I found is that trying to figure out your next step is too close. You get real specific, oh, it's got to have these 20 things and these for the attachments and this part of the country, and it's all of it. It's too much. It's stressful. It's just too much, right? It is not in any way in your control, but it's so close, it feels like it might be, right? And so I think that is, it stresses you out, wrong direction. But 30 years out, whatever, 30 years, you got 20 years to change your mind and still 10 years to get it done. And so that is what I ask. What is it going to be? What do I want to be doing 30 years out? What do I want my retirement party to look like? What do I want people to say? And that helps me get far enough out, but also gives me the freedom to understand that whatever choices that I'm looking at, I got 30 years to make a slight left or course correct and these kind of things, and I can simply evaluate my next choice with that lens, right? So right now, so when I'm thinking, when I'm thinking about that, it's still very hard. I'm in the moment. I do, everyone says they want to matter and these kind of things, but I'm still in that space where, I want my nieces and nephews to say I was their favorite aunt. I do, right? So I want to be, the favorite aunt. I want folks who are at the pinnacle of their career to shout me out, right? I would like to know that what I'm doing now or what I'm saying or sort of those kinds of things are gonna mean something to someone in 30 years. And I don't know if that's the same as me being remembered, but like the way I talk about how some of my early days of poetry were crafted by looking at Nikki Giovanni. Some of my modeling about how to be a CEO was watching the president of Hampton University, who was known for saying my success is measured by how many other university presidents I create, right? So like those kinds of things, right? And so that's a big part of it, right? Like I want to be remembered as one of someone else's stepping stones to greatness, whether or not I kind of know who they are. I want to still be in a position where I have refused to relinquish my joy. I will tell you, there are moments. It's like a tug of war. It gets better and better. It's like a tug of war. In terms of that, and I think we can all candidly at least get into a conversation where we talk about the challenges of Black women remaining fully connected to their joy. It's tough. It's tough on some days, but it can never be taken from us. We have to choose to relinquish it. But it's a tough choice to make. And so, 30 years from now, I want to be like Nikki Giovanni. She was clearly happy. Like clearly, she was like, I ain't never even think about giving it up. Sort of in that space. And so I definitely want to be there. I think about, making my mother proud. Daddy loves me because that's how daddies are, right? So mommy proud, dad, of course, who's no longer with us, he just loves me. And then my grandmother. I got that one grandmother that we swear sits at the left hand of God. I know God, Jesus is on the right, but my grandmother is clearly on the left. And so I think about also, becoming something like the woman she was, because she was the gentle one, the grace one, the one where everything seemed to roll off like water. Everybody thought she was, was that person, and she was really just kind, right? And so those are some of the things that I think about. And it may sound weird that I don't have a lot of career milestones in there, and I'm not taking those for granted at all, but I can see those, and I am achieving, right? This is my second time being the CEO of a major institution. I've been an associate provost of a university. I've published books. So those are things that I can already put my hands on. Right. And so whenever folks ask me those questions, I think that's why it's off the list. Like those are the things, like I got that. I know how to do that. I see the path to that. Yeah. But it's that other stuff, the stuff that I think is really meaningful, that tends to come to the top of mind when folks ask me that question.
Yeah, life is so much bigger than our achievements because it's all inside, and it's all about that joyous disposition, in my opinion. No matter what we go through, those stepping stones are there, but they're there to make us stronger. But in the meantime, how are we feeling in the midst of all of this? Are we continuing to maintain our joy? Just like you said, And that's so important,
Yeah.
and when it comes to what people have to say about us as well.
Yeah.
you know.
And I want to acknowledge, I am Gen X, so don't none of y'all come to me and tell me you just want to be happy. Right? Okay, so it's interesting. It's a yes and I think for me these milestones, these accomplishments are important,
Yeah.
right? Because you need a path, you need a trail, but the how matters,
yes.
right? And so yes, it's be a CEO if that's your path, but it's not to be a notorious crazy one, right?
Right.
It's sort of those kinds of things. So like I said, Gen X, I believe in milestones and health insurance and all that good stuff. But I think that the how that you're doing those matters. But I think that has to do with a lot of our behavior and our personal choices. And I feel like I have more control over that than I do on the impact that I make on someone who's listening to me talk.
That's right.
And I think that that's why I'm hoping that those are the things that I'm getting right. The things that I have far less control over are the things that I think I have ambitions about being good at.
Absolutely. Those achievements inspire people, but that story that goes along with those achievements, that's another level of inspiration.
Yeah.
So have you guys been inspired to speak on? I've been very inspired. I had a goal for this evening. I know you've been interviewed a lot, but I wanted to, shine a light on a different side of you that people might not have ever seen before. So I hope that I've achieved that. Did you guys learn something new about South Carolina? Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And for doing all the work you do in the community, through the
Thank you.
museum, and through your personal disposition.
Yes.
And we're going to look forward to hearing from you
Okay.
later on
Yes.
this evening.
Yes.
With your poetry. And we'll be right back. Give it up one more time for to give you an opportunity to tell our audience a little bit about what Brooks Fitnessing does.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for this opportunity to come and meet all of you and hear the inspiring stories tonight. I know me and my team were really touched and connected with some of you and hope to bring that back to some of our residents. But Florence Crittenton is actually the only program in the state of South Carolina that is helping teen mothers with housing and support services to help them become the best moms that they can be, as well as prepare for adulthood. So we're helping them finish high school, we're helping them obtain employment, we're helping them obtain housing, which we know in our community is getting harder and harder every day. And so we have the privilege of having a group home in downtown Charleston where young moms can live with us between the ages of 14 to 21, where we can provide them comprehensive services to prepare them for
Thank you very much. I'm excited to share this portion of my being with you all, and I decided, we'll go in the full zone. We'll go in the full zone. Whenever I'm in the full zone, I am not Dr. Tanya Matthews. I am Ja Hipster. Exactly. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Spoken soul artist, Ja Hipster. God made me who I am, and these hips will make me famous. So only two poems. And the first one is so appropriate. It just kind of sandwiches some of the conversations we've had this evening. We were just introduced to the incredible work of the folks over at Florence Crittenton. Everybody is somebody's daughter. We talked a bit about my fangirl and my conversation with the late, always great Nikki Giovanni. As I was coming up, one of my earliest poems was in that sense of inspiration, and I'm going to share that with you this evening in honor of Nikki Giovanni and all the other conversations we've had. This is called Nikki's Daughter. So hopefully you all are familiar with the poem Ego Tripping. If you're not, pretend. Okay, if you're not, pretend. But while it's one of her popular and famous poems because she's just doing these amazing exaggerations, it's also, if you're a nerd girl, she's using incredible technique of hyperbole. And imagery in that poem is essentially what she's doing. So this is Nikki's Daughter. In a time past, My yawn was tsunami, pushing the dark man past Honshu and into Harlem. Shango Dare implied that in this I had erred. False gods make mistakes. I make plans. So I sneezed and pearls dripped out of my nose and became Langston and Zora and Duke and Billy and Freedom. Yes, I am she. That tough, tight, omnipotent, bold, and cold. Wind chill factor 360 degrees above false identity. Mass media cannot camouflage the destiny of Nikki's daughter. The constellations are my autobiography, but you still don't know me, still can't know me. My lover and I made nations, conquered universes, and created revolution, but even he only knows my second middle name. Make no mistake, I am not the moon, but I am flattered you mistook me for one so young. I am she who took match and lit the sun. I am fierce, I am lion, I am civilization, and there are days when I simply just am. So good, my crimes are cardinal virtues. So bad, I am the reason the devil needs an advocate. I am temptation. The first man tried to taste of me, and hell was created when I told him he couldn't have any more. I danced before there were drummers. I am rhythm. I ate before there was food. I am bounty. I drink of oceans and feast upon stray planets. I am so magnificent. My excretions can be seen by satellite. The Nile is my number one, the Himalaya is my number two. Long ago, when traveling this earth, my walking stick carved out the Grand Canyon. My dropped earring became the first Egyptian pyramid. My discarded chastity belt, the Great Barrier Reef. I created laughter with a wink and melody with a hiccup, while my teardrops melted into butterflies before this world ever knew sadness. The wind is nothing more than breath left over from lullabies I sing to my seventh son. And on the seventh day of the seventh month in the seventh year of his life, he will defeat the beast of triple imperfection and hang Africa around my neck in commemoration. It will be my best birthday ever. But do not marvel at this mere trickle of my great water. There is so much more to come, for I too shall have a daughter. So I hear some people getting into it. I want to remind you, it's okay to laugh and to cheer and to snap, because I got the microphone, you don't. Okay, so it will be okay. And the holiday season is among us. And to be clear, I celebrate any holiday that comes with food. So I am going to celebrate a particular one that folks are familiar with, but again, if it has food, I am one with you. That's how inclusion works at this level. So this one is called I Want a World for Christmas, and sometimes I subtitle it The New Santa Baby. So we'll put this in this context. Santa Baby, bring me a world where I am equally judged and evenly yoked. Where I get justice, not justification. When I spend more time accepting respect and less time demanding it, you will be halfway there. Santa Baby, bring me a world where the police do the drive-bys and just wave. Bring me a world where the gamers get played, where the system self-corrects its self-created viruses, a world where state representatives get voted off the island for not knowing whose side they're on. A world where public schools and urban playgrounds are where senators send their grandchildren, where Fear Factor is a television show, not a campaign tactic. Santa Cutie, bring me a world that is not afraid to educate its majority, protect its minority, and listen to anyone in between. I want a world where my president is my president and still my president, and my president admits he is my president too. Santa honey, bring me a world that understands that free healthcare won't kill you. As a matter of fact, I want a world where Ritalin is outlawed, Prozac is unnecessary, and everything else is a vitamin or a placebo. Santa baby, bring me a world where people who overeat and people who starve cannot coexist.
Wow.
Santa darling, if you could bring me a world where everyone knows the cost of freedom and understands exactly what they are paying for. So let's put it on the top of shelf of every grocery store, beyond the reach of short visions and small minds. Market in rainbow-hued wrapping paper so that the colorblind can still see it, but will never understand its full potential. Minimal effectiveness will require at least a pound, so make it $50, $60 an ounce. Then flood all the mailboxes and street corners with 100% off coupons. Cause see, Santa, I want a world where freedom ain't free, but everybody can afford it. Santa cutie, bring me a ring of fire. I want a world where the wagons circle and the villagers stay awake. A world where it is impossible to snatch my dreams or my children in the middle of the night. Santa, honey, bring me a world where my son can keep the bass in his voice. A world where heads held high and shoulders held square won't get you punked, shot, arrested, or hung. A world where the definitions of swagger and fatherhood are indistinguishable. A world where jailhouses rehab into museums because they are so underutilized and so not forgotten.
Right.
Santa baby, bring me a world where the switch in my daughter's hip is understood, not undermined. Let her be brilliant and loud in a world where there is no such thing as too brilliant and too loud. A world where she is beautiful because she says so. A world where other women say so every time she forgets. I want a world where ladylike and presidential mean the same damn thing. I wrote it a long time ago, but somehow it still resonates. A world where strong womanhood and solo warriordom do not mean the same thing. I want a world that understands that copping a feel is like holding the world in your hands. Santa baby, bring me a world where calls for peace are irrelevant and poems like this are redundant. If you can't do that, Santa honey, just send me a really, really dark Christmas night. Something silent enough to sleep through, holy enough for the angels to stuff cotton in my ears, calm enough for the ancestors to write the prayers across my eyelids. Cause Santa dearly, if you can't bring me a world, just go on and stay home. Cause all I really need is a good night's sleep so me and the believers can wake back up and get to the business of creating this world on our own. Thank
Y'all better have a happy holiday. Dr. Tanya Matthews. Tell me your poetry name one more time. One more time.
Ja Hipster.
Y'all heard it here. Y'all heard it here. Woo! What an amazing evening. Oh my goodness. So I want to call my girl Lauren back up. Lovey, Miss Lovey Smith. Where you at, girl? Come on back up, girl. Come on. So I want to say thank you to you, right, for being a part of this team for tonight. Y'all give it up for Miss Lovey Smith one more time. See, this is what happens when you collaborate, right? You bring more people and we shine together. So thank you. Thank you for being obedient to your calling, and for me being obedient to my calling, and for Stephen to be obedient to his calling, because we do this thing together. Y'all give it up for Stephen over there. He's been going through a lot, but he is here. He made his way here, and he is so dedicated. So I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I want to say thank you once again to the folks that helped to make tonight possible. Miss Daisy Finley for this amazing outfit.
Yes.
I love her. I want to say thank you to Izzy Mack for the branded Let's see.
Good, 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 good.
What do you call these again? The tumblers.
Tumblers,
I gotta get used to that term because I always say Stanley cups, but they're not all Stanleys. Thank you again to Monzy Lux for having the candles that you guys will go home and smell and feel. It's so good, so good. We got DJ Scrib. Give it up for Scrib on the ones and twos. Yes, and there's so many more people. So many people. Michelle, thank you so much, Michelle Vandura, for this amazing venue. Did you all know that it was women owned? This is a women-owned venue. We support women-owned venues. Yes, we do. And speaking of women-owned venues, thank you to Striped Pig Distillery as well for the welcome cocktail. Thank you to Tony Bell and Bell Digital Media, your team, for doing this amazing production. You guys see all this equipment out here?
Right. Well.
Right. All right, and thank you to everyone else who made tonight possible. Give it up for yourselves once more.
Yes.
Absolutely. There are so many different businesses that are represented here tonight, so I hope that each and every one of you leave here knowing the next person, the person that you might not have known when you walked in here. So that's what this is all about: inspiration, community, uplifting one another through the arts, through media, through production, just all the things that we do on a daily basis. And we got to make it more purposeful, right? I want you all to have a wonderful, happy holiday. Thank you once again for being here with us. And stay tuned because 2025.
It's coming.
2025. Look forward to more partnerships. Thank you to Black Expo. We're going to be doing some stuff with Black Expo, so shout out to you, Johnson. We have a lot of partnerships coming in 2025, so look out for us. If you are interested in being a community partner, please contact us on the zdexperience.com. So excited. Thank you. I can't say thank you enough. Thank you to our volunteers. Shannon. Yes, and Denise. Thank you. They are the truth. And Patrice Smith, you stepped in and did your good bag stuffing. So I thank you very much for doing that. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night. Scrib, you're going to take us out. Go ahead, take us out. All right. Good night, everybody. This is a original song, too.
Come on now.
This is our stuff. All right.
Hey.
So I want to thank you, Dr. Matthews, for being here.
Thank you.
Because I know you're busy. You have a very, very demanding position.
Yeah.
So for you to spend your time with us here tonight means the world.
Thank you.
And Ms. Levine, thank you again for the collaboration. Thank you again for just the uplifting of just the exchange of upliftment, because it's so important to have that reciprocated. So for you to be in my circle, in my triangle, like I always say, that means the world. So thank you. I love you. I love working out. I'm done.
No, I think it's just, amazing, to be in this space, for so many reasons. I mean, yes, of course I'm busy, and community is part of the job, but it's also part of the survival plan. Right. In terms of being able to be in authentic spaces, to be able to be your full self in all of your facets. There are certain versions or iterations of you that show up in different spaces. And that's not selling out. That's not being true. That's, figuring out which facet of you should be in space. But see, you've created a space where people can bring their whole self, or simply the self they choose to bring, kind of in that space, and sort of mixing and flowing and moving. And I think that the viewers and the audience feel the same way, right? That they can come in the space. It was a very eclectic, I don't even like the word diverse for this. It was an eclectic audience in that space. And I think that's a reflection of the energy,
Yeah.
that you create in that space. And it's a reminder we always have to make time for these things. And as often as people see me as, say, spokesperson for what I do, because it's part of the job, that is actually very, very different from me sharing my story. And now that story is a part of my story,
Right.
but it's very different. In that space, and it reminds me, to keep out there and doing those things, and thank you for supporting, right? Because in my world, my chief operating officer is always my right hand. I'm like, I don't lock doors, I don't turn on lights, I don't like these are the things, right? So when you're dealing with folks who have vision, and have this, there is always a very strong, second hand, not even behind the scenes,
Right.
but sort of someone who can be there and lift and push and count and counter and all those kinds of things. And it's amazing. So thank you for who you are, just on your own. Just on your own, but also, who you are inside of this process too.
Amen.
You're all right.
Mhm.
We talked about this
We did.
over a year ago. We sat, and I am a believer of the prophetic. You have what you say, and we sat there and we talked this whole thing out. We just randomly talked about it.
Yeah.
And then every other week, and we're like, yeah, we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
And then one day she was like, no, I booked it. We're gonna do this. I said, oh, we're gonna do it. We doing it?
Uh-huh.
For real?
Same here.
Second show.
Second show.
Yeah.
Second show. And it gets better every time, right?
Amen. Amen. I can honestly say that I could not have done this thing without Stephen.
Yeah.
I could not. Not the way that we do it. Because I was doing some things, as far as the live entertainment sector and being on stage singing.
Yeah.
But the behind the scenes, he's got this keen eye.
He really
Oh my goodness. He's got
Yeah.
this thing, this way of seeing beyond, and it's so needed.
Yeah.
So for him to press through and be here tonight.
Absolutely.
He's hurting, but he's right here.
It's worth it, yeah.
He was texting me.
He had look like a black woman. Now he out here rolling like a black woman. He rolling like a sister.
Absolutely.
Right down. I told him to sat down.
Now, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
He back there doing it.
Yeah.
But
It takes a team, it takes a village.
yeah.
And the support is there and you can feel it. So and I feel like the village has been extended tonight.
Yeah.
There's so many things that we can relate to, and we have to realize that we're so much more similar than we are different. And people say it all the time, but until
Yeah.
we continue to tell our stories, we're not going to realize how much it is.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
yeah,
You gotta
absolutely.
100.
It's time.
It's time.
What a way to end 2020.
There it is. Exactly.
This is a setting for what's coming.
Yep.
So I believe this year was the year of the 8. We're supposed to round some things out, close it out, abundance, and really manifest some things, right? Well, we put it out there.
Yes,
2025.
absolutely.
And we're gonna see it. I feel like we're gonna see it in fruition and really let it be. So we got to keep that positive.
Coming out of hibernation.
That's right. Yes.
Right?
On the
Exactly.
cultivation period.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Things.
Good.
All right.
And all right. Thank you.